The Nintendo GameCube is a home video game console marketed and developed by Nintendo. It was the company's first console to use disc. However, when the GameCube was released, it received a lot of negative feedback because it couldn't play DVDs, a significant selling point at the time, which contributed to the success of the PS2. Additionally, the lack of a mature Zelda title hurt the console's appeal, as many fans were disappointed with the Wind Waker. Growing up, I had a PS2 and Xbox, though the Xbox was really my mom's console. I enjoyed the PS2, it was one of my favorite consoles alongside the PS1 and the Wii. However, seeing games like Super Mario Sunshine and Super Smash Bros. Melee made me want a GameCube. I begged my mom for one, but she refused, saying that she hated the console because it looked like a toy record player. I'm glad those days are behind me. Now I can experience the GameCube through the Wii's backwards compatibility and emulation, exploring its excellent library with Super Smash Bros. Melee, Super Mario Sunshine, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. The OG Animal Crossing is my favorite Animal Crossing game out of the whole series. Mario Kart Double Dash and the sweet obscure games like Wario World and P3 the product number, Chibi Robo. The GameCube has finally received the flowers it deserved, for good or for worse. But it's time to get to the lost media side of things, the titles that never saw the light of day, whether it was due to controversy or financial issues. But before we go further,
I can see you. I can see that you're not subscribed. It will be lovely if you please subscribe to my channel. It helps me be able to make the videos that I can make, and it helped me be able to be monetized. So please subscribe.
Two Human is an action role-playing game developed by Silicon Knights. It was originally announced for the PlayStation in 1999, then moved to the GameCube in 2000 after the studio partnered with Nintendo. However, the GameCube version was eventually canceled too, and the game was later moved to the Xbox 360, where it was finally released. There isn't much information available about its development during the GameCube era, similar to the early PlayStation phase. However, a tech demo was shown at Space World 2000 featured an FMV presentation of two humans running on the GameCube. This game seemed cursed from the very beginning. Following a long and troubled development cycle, Two Human became further embroiled in controversy due to a high-profile lawsuit between Silicon Knights and Epic Games. Silicon Knights had licensed the Unreal Engine 3 for their games, including Two Human and X-Men Destiny, but sued Epic in 2007, accusing them of failing to provide adequate support. However, the lawsuit backfired. Epic countersued and won, with the court ruling that Silicon Knights had unlawfully used and modified the Unreal Engine without proper authorization. As a result, the court ordered the Silicon Knights to recall and destroy unsold physical copies and digital copies of Two Human, X-Men Destiny, and other affected titles. This unprecedented legal ruling led to the erasure of Two Human from digital storefronts, effectively making it a lost title for the time. To make matters worse, Silicon Knights' ambitious plans for a Two Human trilogy were scrapped, alongside their hope for a sequel to Eternal Darkness were never realized. I should have added this last part into my 11 lost and cancelled Wii games for the Eternal Darkness cancelled sequel entry. Conker's Bad Fur Day 2, also known as Conker's Other Bad Day, was a planned sequel to the cult classic Nintendo 64 title Conker's Bad Fur Day. The sequel was initially in development by Rare for the Nintendo GameCube shortly before the company was acquired by Microsoft in 2002. The game was intended to continue Conker's story after he became king, exploring the darker consequences of his hedonistic lifestyle. Unfortunately, the project was quietly cancelled following the acquisition, and Conker's next appearance came in the form of a reimagining Conker Live and Reloaded for the original Xbox, which was just a remake of Conker's Bad Fur Day. Dead Phoenix was an ambitious action fantasy title in the development for the Nintendo GameCube. It was a part of the Frame Capcom 5, a lineup of 5 games Capcom announced in 2002 as exclusives for the GameCube, while the other 4, PN3, Viewful Joe, and Resident Evil 4 and Killer 7, eventually saw release, albeit not all remaining exclusive. Dead Phoenix was quietly disappeared into obscurity, becoming the only title in the lineup to never see a release. Early footage and promotional material suggested a game centered around a winged protagonist capable of aerial combat, with the character's arms seemingly transforming into energy-based cannons and even evolving into a phoenix-like form. The trailer's high-flying, fantastical tone led many to compare it to Panzer Dragoon, a cult favorite Rare shooter series known for its fast-paced action and third-person aerial battles. Despite initial excitement, Dead Phoenix failed to make an appearance at E3 2003. Not long after, it was removed from Capcom's official website and upcoming release list. Capcom remained silent on its status, refusing to confirm or deny its cancellation. However, when the Dead Phoenix trademark was officially abandoned in 2004, fans saw it as the final nail in the coffin. Diddy Kong Adventure Racing was a planned but ultimately cancelled GameCube title developed by Climax Studios. The project was a spiritual successor to the beloved Diddy Kong Racing on the Nintendo 64, aiming to expand the formula with more exploration, customizable vehicles, and a richer storyline. Thanks to video game preservationist and researcher PTOP Online, the same guy who uncovered the Lost Elder Scrolls PSP game, thanks to him we know more about this elusive title. According to the materials found and shared by him, the game was pitched to Nintendo sometime after April 2004, though no exact date of the pitch has been confirmed. The story centered around the return of the villain Wizpig, who was back for revenge. This time the stakes were higher. If Wizpig wins, he would pave over the entire forest. To stop him, Diddy and his friends would have to travel through 16 themed villages, each inspired by a hero from the Donkey Kong Country series. Each village featured 3 racetracks plus mirror mode, providing a variety of gameplay experiences. Despite its potential, the game never moved beyond the pitch phase and prototype stages. Nintendo reportedly passed on the project for unknown reasons. Ty the Tasmanian Tiger 4, Gunup. I hope I pronounced Gunup correctly. Tasmanian Tiger 4 Gunyip was a cancelled entry in the Tasmanian Tiger series, originally planned for release on the Nintendo GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2, intended to be the fourth main installment in the franchise. Gunyip was envisioned as a more vehicle-focused game, expanding upon the aerial combat elements introduced in Tai 3 Knights of the Quick Can. Development began in the mid 2000s, but around 2007, the project was quietly canceled when Chrome Studios shifted its focus towards higher priority projects, most notably their work on the console ports of the Star Wars The Force Unleashed. With limited resources and increasing demands from publishers, Gunyep was shelved before reaching full production. Much of what is known about Thai 4 Gunyip comes from Steve Stadmatis, the creator of the Thai series, who shared development insights and concept art on his Tumblr account. According to Stadmatis, the game would have featured a strong emphasis on flying missions using the titular Gunyip aircraft in a variety of action-packed environments. While the title was never officially announced to the public during its development, a test reel showcasing early gameplay concepts was created and later released as a bonus content in the PC remaster of Thai Tasmanian Tiger 3, giving fans a rare glimpse into what the project might have looked like. Bookshio 5. Man, what is with these weird names? Anyway, Bookshio 5, the Bumbling 5, was a GameCube exclusive project developed by Sega's United Game Artists, UGA, that was unfortunately cancelled. Players will control a team of 5 red robots, each with unique abilities based on a specific sense: voice, eyes, nose, ears, and brain. These abilities would allow for diverse gameplay mechanics and approaches to completing levels, such as mimicking voices to infiltrate enemy bases or using their plungers to manipulate enemies and the environment. The game was canceled due to a lack of interest from the American market, which resulted in Sega of Japan ceasing the project. United Game Artists was subsequently disbanded, and many key staff members, including Tetsuya Mitsuguchi and Jake Kasdal, left Sega to pursue other projects. Stage Debut was an ambitious and ultimately cancelled GameCube project developed internally by Nintendo. The game was designed to be a creative, interactive experience that allowed players to insert themselves directly into the world of Nintendo by mapping their real-life faces onto 3D character models. The main feature of Stage Debut was its integration with the Game Eye, a planned but unreleased peripheral for the Game Boy Advance. Intended to be a successor to the Game Boy camera, the Game Eye would allow players to take pictures of their own faces, which would then be transferred to the GameCube and applied to customizable in-game avatars. These avatars could then interact with Nintendo characters such as Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser, and Wario in a variety of playful settings including classrooms, playgrounds, and other social environments. The game emphasized humorous and offbeat and often absurd interactions between the player and the Nintendo cast. Stage Debut was also planned to incorporate support for the Game Boy Advance e-reader, allowing players to scan special Animal Crossing e-reader cards to import villagers and potentially other content into the game. The overall gameplay was envisioned as a sandbox-style experience focused on more creativity and social interaction than traditional goals or missions. However, several factors led to the project's demise. First and foremost, the Game Eye peripheral was never released, leaving the game without its core functionality. The discontinuation of the e-reader in North America around the same time further weakened its appeal. Internally, Nintendo reportedly struggled to define a clear gameplay purpose beyond the novelty of the face mapping and interaction, which may have contributed to the project's cancellation. Despite never seeing release, Stage Debut holds a notable place in Nintendo history. It is considered a spiritual successor to Mario Artist Talent Studio, a Japan-only title for the Nintendo 64 DD that also allowed users to create custom characters using facial data. More importantly, ideas from Stage Debut would live on. Shigeru Miyamoto later confirmed that the project directly inspired the creation of the Mii channel on the Nintendo Wii. Elements of Stage Debut's avatar-based interactivity will go on to influence Tomodachi Life, Miitopia, Wii Sports, anything that has to do with the Miis. Donkey Kong Racing was a canceled Nintendo GameCube title developed by Rare and originally intended to be a sequel to the beloved Nintendo 64 classic Diddy Kong Racing. The game was first announced at E3 2001, where a pre-rendered trailer showcased its vibrant world, whimsical style, and unique gameplay concepts. Unlike traditional kart racers, Donkey Kong Racing featured a unique mount-based racing system. Instead of driving vehicles, players would ride iconic animal companions from the Donkey Kong Country series, such as Rambi the Rhino and Garde the Swordfish, and other lesser-known mounts. A standout feature was the ability to switch between mounts mid-race, allowing players to adapt to different terrains and obstacles on the fly. Larger animals could smash through barriers, while smaller and more agile creatures could provide faster movements and sharper handling. The game also introduced a stamina system where mounts would tire over time, forcing players to temporarily dismount and continue on foot to catch another ride. Despite the promising concept, development came to an abrupt halt in 2002 when Microsoft acquired Rare. This shift resulted in Rare losing access to Nintendo's Donkey Kong IP, which made it impossible to continue the project in its original form. In response, Rare attempted to salvage the core ideas by reworking the game into a new title for the Xbox called Saberman Stampede. However, this was cancelled as well. I was uncertain whether to add this entry because it's not really a game, even though others consider it as one. I don't know, let's just rock with it. Super Mario 128 was not a full game, but rather a series of experimental projects at Nintendo that evolved over several years, influencing some of the company's most iconic titles. The name Super Mario 128 holds a special place in Nintendo lore due to its mysterious nature and technological ambition. The name first surfaced in 1997, originally tied to the planned sequel to Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64 DD, an add-on for the Nintendo 64. That version was ultimately cancelled as the 64 DD was a failure and was discontinued shortly after release. The concept resurfaced in 2000, this time as a tech demo for the Nintendo GameCube unveiled at Nintendo Space World. This version showcased the Nintendo GameCube's processing power by rendering 128 miniature Marios on a screen simultaneously, each moving independently on a circular platform. The demo also included features like real-time terrain deformation and advanced physics simulations, impressive for its time and a major leap from the Nintendo 64's capabilities. Although Super Mario 64 128 never was intended for the public release as a standalone game, the technologies and ideas explored in the project were far from lost. Nintendo would later incorporate these mechanics into several major titles. The most notable one is Pikmin. The game's main gameplay mechanic is to amass a large army of Pikmin for survival. Earthbound for Gamecube, also known as Mother, was a proposed project that was ultimately cancelled. This GameCube proposal was separate from the more well-known cancellation of Mother 3 for the Nintendo 64, Earthbound 64, which had been in development during the late 90s. That earlier project was cancelled because of technical reasons with the 64 DD and the team's lack of experience with 3D game development. In 2003, during his work on the Baten Kaido series at Monolith Soft, director Yasuki Hone pitched a new Mother game for the Nintendo GameCube. The proposal was made directly to Nintendo president at the time, Satoru Iwata, who had a deep connection to the Mother series, having worked closely on previous entries during his time at HAL Laboratory. Hone's concept was built around a claymation-inspired art style reminiscent of the promotional materials used for the Earthbound on the Super Nintendo. The idea was to give the game a handmade look, drawing visual inspiration from a felt recreations of 1980s America, echoing the series' signature nostalgic tone. While Iwata approved of the pitch, the final say rested with the series creator Mr. Itoi. Unfortunately, Itoi found the proposal strange and difficult to connect with, reportedly reacted with a sense of confusion, saying he was flabbergasted by the concept. Though he appreciated the artistic homages to 1980s Americana, he ultimately chose not to be involved. A critical blow, as the Mother series had always relied heavily on Itoi's personal vision and writing. Because of Itoi's lack of interest, the project was quietly shelved. It's frustrating how the Earthbound/Mother series seem to always have the worst of luck when it comes to development. The series just can't catch a fucking break. From canceled games to a sequel that refused to be released in North America and PAL regions. It's truly unfortunate that we never got to see this game's cool claymation art style reminiscent of games like The Neverhood. And there you have it, lost and canceled GameCube games. Sorry if my voice at times sounded a little groggy, my allergies have been driving me nuts. Thank you if you made it to the end of the video, I gladly appreciate it, and if you have any suggestions, thoughts, or additional information about these games, feel free to share them in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your insights. Don't forget to like the video if you found it interesting, and consider subscribing for more content like this. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.